Good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 25th day of July 2022. It's exactly 2 weeks to the general election. And like I told you earlier on, 12 days to the close of the official campaigns. They must close 6 p.m. 6th of July, that being more than 48 hours to the general election. Of course, the campaigns begin at 6 a.m. and therefore 6 a.m. 7th will be exactly 48 days to 9th of August, which is the date of the election. I want to introduce the panelists here in studio. We have Caleb Kositanyi, who is the Member of Parliament for Soi constituency. Good morning.
Good morning. I can see you giving me a new name.
Yes, I'm losing your name. Duncan Okach, Advocate of the High Court. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
Herman Manyora, political commentator, but also lecturer at the University of Nairobi. Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
And it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Right, and of course, so much is going on in the country as we head to that very important date. So much suspicion going on with the question of the Venezuelans who arrived in the country sometime last week. And of course, the DCI has given a very detailed letter that has also gone the political way with the DP, William Ruto, and his team calling out the DCI, telling him that he's interfering with the election, and a direct call to President Uhuru Kenyatta that later listened to that he has a duty to ensure there's free, fair and credible election in as far as the use of state machinery is concerned. On the two dailies, they attempt to capture the magnitude of the moment. You'll see that on the main story of the Standard, Kinoti versus IEBC, who is telling the truth on the Venezuelans. DCI claims that three are in the country to execute ill motives, but their host says they are supposed to train IEBC staff on support solutions, with Ruto telling police to keep off election matters. Then, of course, you see Abdullahi Abdi, CEO of Seamless Limited, saying that the Venezuelans are part of a team charged with the responsibility of training about support solutions on behalf of Smartmatic International Holding, the company responsible for the supply of the election technology. On the front page of the Daily Nation, you will see that Kinoti takes the war to Chebukati over Venezuelans. A verbal war between the IEBC and the DCI escalated yesterday with the publication by the latter of a lengthy statement that accused the elections agency of incompetence and dishonesty regarding the arrest of foreign nationals linked to the management of this year's elections. And let me begin there, and starting with you, Honorable Kositanyi from Soi. When you look at the conversation going on, it has taken such a political twist. Who is telling the truth, and what are your thoughts about this?
Well, Sam, I think it's actually very sad that we have such a situation in our country, especially 2 weeks to the general election. And I think it has just been caused by serious panic on the so-called system and deep state side, that this election has become impossible to rig. They are trying to get any way of trying to discredit the electronic method of electioneering so that we may go to the manual register, which is easy to manipulate. You can tell from the stories, there is no reason why IEBC Chair Chebukati would claim that the Venezuelans were coming to train IEBC staff when they are not. And the DCI has gone ahead, and I don't know why Mr. Kinoti thinks, I don't know who advises him. I don't know whether he reads the statements he makes before, because when he tells us that they traveled with expired passports, there is nowhere in the world that you will board an aircraft with an expired passport. These days, all airports are electronically connected. Your passport is scanned, and the expiry date is, and all the details pop up there. So I believe these were genuine people from what do they call it? Smartmatic.
Smartmatic.
Yeah, Smartmatic coming to train Kenyans. And I concur and I hold with what the Deputy President said yesterday, and we as Kenya Kwanza would like the system to keep off IEBC. They have had control over the media, they have had control over the police and all, but I think now they're overstepping their mandate. They should actually leave the IEBC to do their work.
But what confidence do you have that these are actually staff that are meant to work on the process of the elections, and the alleged ill motive by the DCI is false?
Well, I have said and here before that I believe IEBC is up to the task. I trust IEBC. And I think on an opinion poll, Kenyans have confidence in IEBC. I think their ratings is above 60%. So I believe, given Chebukati's word and given Kinoti's word, I would take Chebukati's word. So I believe IEBC know what they are saying. They have the facts on what they're saying. And I think we know Kinoti has been, we've called him the DCI, headline DCI. He loves media more than his work. They have actually a very incompetent lot in the DCI. I remember I had an incident on the 2nd of April. They took my phone and said they were going to go through it and then return it. From the 2nd of April to date, they have my phone for the last 6 months.
Remind me, what were they looking for?
I don't know. They claimed that we had organized to stone my phone and the Honorable Sudi's. We had organized to stone a chopper which Raila was using when he came for a funeral in my constituency. And that is the DCI that you want to tell me to trust. No.
I didn't tell you to trust. I'm just asking because, I mean, every other Kenyan is wondering what's going on because the Constitution has mandated the electoral body IEBC to manage the election. 3 foreigners come to the country and becomes a storm. I mean, Haman, what are you thinking before you get to Wakili here? What's going on?
You know, we can only rely on 2 things. What we have from the media in public domain and logic. There's nothing else. You know, and Caleb must accept that we have not seen anything else from IEBC. If the Venezuelans, for example, were working for IEBC, we have not seen any evidence to that effect. But based on simple logic and the practice in consultancies, I do a little consultancies here and there. When you bid for a job, you give your capacities, competencies. That would include the people you'll work with, okay? When you get the job and now sign the contract and you are going to the phase of working, you are also required to give the persons who will be on that job, beyond the ones you use to win the job. You get it? And it's for good reason. Because you are going to be dealing with a client. Sometimes there are sensitive issues. Sometimes it's the matters of confidentiality. They must know who you are bringing on board. The only person you are allowed to hire without involving the candidate is a research assistant and such a small other fellows. You get what I'm saying? So now, how could these people be working for IEBC or Smartmatics, and there is no single evidence, not a single thing written down that they are neither IEBC workers, nor are they workers of Smartmatic. There's nothing to show that. So what are we left with? To conclude that these are people who may be up to something. You are carrying sensitive material in your luggage. You know, personal. You've not declared to custom. You know, sometimes I've been asking people on Twitter, some very reasonable Kenyans, ask them, please love your country. This election will come and go. Raila will win or Ruto will win.
You are saying that they have not declared to customs. What is there to be declared?
When you enter an airport, when you come through an airport, you declare what you are carrying. You must declare what you are carrying. Unless it's just your clothes, then you say, I'm not declaring.
And I thought, especially if it should attract custom duty.
Yeah, or any sensitive material you have. Yeah, you declare.
Because the IEBC released a statement a few days ago, and they were talking about, they were refuting a statement from the National Police Service, and they were saying that other than the person who had been arrested at the airport, the security officers also arrested 2 other personnel who had been working for the commission and had gone to check on their colleague. This brings the total number of the arrested personnel to 3, whereas this impression created by the press release is that the personnel have been released. Their release was conditional as they have to appear before the OCS Anti-Terrorism Police Unit on 26th. That should be tomorrow. The National Police Service informed the public that the stickers had been released to the Commission, yet the said stickers have in fact been confiscated and retained by the OCS Anti-Terrorism. And of course, there's another word here. The National Police Service has most importantly confiscated all electronic items, including mobile phones, laptops and flash disks in the custody of the said personnel, which electronic items contain important and sensitive information information relating to the forthcoming elections. Then the Commission is still troubled by the acts of the National Police Service and demands cessation of harassment of personnel of legitimately contracted service providers and calls for immediate release of all confiscated items. Of course, there's no evidence so far to show that these materials have been released to the Commission. But Wakili, when you listen to this conversation...
Please, Sam, you are going too fast. I thought you were addressing me. My friend.
Okay,
no. I thought because people are waiting for me to talk because we've been reading. Yeah? When you are a suspicious person or you've been found with suspicious material, investigations kick in. And all these things we are being told are a part of that investigation. The moment we find you with sensitive election material, we will be interested even in the phone you are carrying. If you are the police, we'll be interested in the laptop you are carrying. And if people come to see you and they look like you, we could also be interested in you. And it's good they were interested in them because that led them to the other roles that had entered before.
Which is true, and I don't dispute that.
Yeah.
The question I'm raising here is that a statement is said to have come from the National Police Service saying that the investigations revealed that the stickers were bona fide property of IEBC and part of the election-related materials.
Correct.
And the suspect had been released from lawful custody and the stickers released to IEBC.
Yes.
Then IEBC comes and says that it is not true. So that dishonesty is what I'm pointing to.
That we wouldn't know. You and I wouldn't know that, who is saying the truth. We are left with the fact that somebody has come to the country. They have no contract with the IEBC, nor do they have a contract with Smartmatic. But they are carrying material for elections. Then investigations kick in. Then one person says, we have released the material. Another one says, no. That we leave to them because you and I have no way of knowing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wakili, what do you make of this and what are Kenyans supposed to be thinking at this point in time?
I think Kenyans will be left as a very desperate society. And the reason I say so is because it spells to the fact that we are not serious about the impact of elections in terms of the mandate that the citizen ought to give to their leaders, especially if it is general elections which contend the presidential elections all the way to the county representative elections. This is so serious an activity and so costly an activity that we should not, even for a second, be having such issues at this particular point. And it spells to failure in terms of the institutions we have. One, we cannot be politicizing issues or matters election at this particular point. Because we have already learned from 2007 what happened. We've already learned, we've already paid that price. So we should be more careful at this stage. However, we are acting as if we are people who have never seen the effect of elections which are not trustworthy. If it is the DCI, they are mandated by the Constitution and the laws to do their work. We ought to trust them and they ought not to be infiltrated, or they actually ought to be very, very impartial. But to a larger extent, also IEBC has a mandate to ensure, and in fact a bigger mandate at this stage than the DCI, to ensure that they give us an election that meets the threshold and the principles enshrined under Article 81 of our Constitution. To that particular extent, you ask yourself, if elections are as serious as we take them or we deem them to be, can election materials be transported by individuals without any security apparatus? Can they just come into the country being carried by an individual? If we really think we need elections that are actually foolproof, that cannot even be a test to even determine. To a large extent, the other issue you'd be asking yourself, if IEBC knows that these are their officials, and these are election-related materials too, which I think is almost 10,000 polling stations. Will these materials be in the hands of few individuals in an apartment? Would that really be what we will be saying and defending, even if it is IEBC? You know, it makes it very hard to defend IEBC. Because if these items were confiscated and they were found in an IEBC office, at anniversary towers, that will be a different issue. But not in a private apartment, not in a private residence, with everything suspicious about it. So, Sam, I would want to tell you that I think we are taking this joke too far. We are at a point where no one can at this point say that we are going to have credible elections. In fact, nothing of this issue is good, but to a large extent, it is now fodder for any candidate who will lose, not only the presidential, even down to the county representative, to have something to go to a court of law and challenge those elections, because they will not meet the very bare minimum threshold under Article 81.
Okay, and Honorable Kositany, does it concern you that these election materials, as he says, would be in the hands of an individual, knowing too well the sensitivity of the matter at a time that any election material comes in some security form?
You see, Sam, the elections are 2 weeks to go. If election materials are in the hands of those who manufacture them, who are supposed to come and train the Kenyan team with them, I have no problem. At what stage are these stamps meant to be used? That is what we need. We need to know. And the reason, and I said this before, is just panic. It is just panic that Azimio team have seen that this election is already gone. UDA candidate William Ruto is way ahead, and they have to look for any way. And you've had Wakili here mention that this is now fodder for anybody to go to court. And we know those who will always dispute election results. On our side, we have seen no reason to doubt IEBC at the moment. We have no reason to suspect that IEBC is up to any monkey games, and our party leader has affirmed that.
I'm just wondering, sorry to cut you short, because you're saying that Azimio has panicked. I haven't had them, actually. I've just had the Deputy President and his team, and then the DCI. Well,
you need to know that the DCI, who he works for, you need to know that the DCI is under state capture. He's part of the state capture family.
Which is, I mean,
when you see yesterday they raided some private offices. They must have had a tip of either from Matuoli or somebody. Somebody is moving his servers, and the entire cyber unit is deployed there because Ruto was in that office 15 years ago.
It's okay to have your suspicions. I don't have a problem with that. But for the sake of Kenyans who look up to the officers, the state officers or government officers who have a duty, the DCI has a duty, the police have a duty, the ABC has a duty. So when they look at them and they're not thinking about Azimio versus Kenya Kwanza, what are they supposed to be thinking now?
Some Kenyans know. And it's very clear, and it's out there in black and white, that the state organs, some state organs are working for the Azimio candidate. Some state organs are hell-bent on doing whatever they can to ensure that they frustrate IEBC, they frustrate Kenya Kwanza, and have a soft landing spot for Azimio. But that has proved difficult. And that is why maybe to please the master, who is somewhere and giving instructions and banging tables, then they have to go and say, oh, you see, we are working. We've arrested some Venezuelans. We have even deported them. They came in with, giving a statement that they came in with expired passports. Honestly, which airline would allow you to board with an expired passport? No, none.
Okay.
None whatsoever. Even at Wilson Airport, you would not board an international flight with
again, we live at a time that is very difficult to even verify some of these statements. But Wakili, I'll get to you. Is it so bad to the extent that whatever DCI does, whatever the National Police Service does, has to be read through the political lenses?
Yeah, of course, what Moshimo is saying is not also far from the truth, because the reality is that a lot, we've seen the DCI making arrests or being used in one way or another politically, which is not a good thing, because we always tell the politicians, today you're in the side of government, tomorrow you'll be out. So if you are using the same system to harass the other side, it will be used also against you. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. However, it is not what it should be. there should be independence, especially of these institutions, which are mandated by Kenyans, paid by taxpayers, so that in times like this, if they come out with such a very serious issues, very serious arrests or very serious investigations, it should not even come close to anyone looking at it that it is actually, you know, they are playing politics. If you look at developed nations like the United States, when there are issues, even if these issues are in favor of the sitting president, the institutions will work and will actually unearth. When Donald Trump was trying to still remain in power or use, you know, people to try and ensure he remains in power, those people arrested, investigations took place. Even he himself was almost brought to book. So if you have institutions, I think it also spells a culture that if we do not have institutions that are that live towards or live to the mandate that they are given, it then will still affect the discharge of their mandates, and especially such serious mandates. And it is not only the DCI at this stage, even the IEBC, which ought to be very, very neutral, like Caesar's wife, beyond reproach. If there are allegations like these, very serious ones, you cannot continue to sit in that seat. My take would have been, at this particular point, we should have seen heads rolling at this particular point, because it is about the Kenyans themselves. If we can save, you know, a repeat election will cost so much, so much. And not only in terms of money, in terms of blood. So at this point, someone sitting there, someone must have actually messed up. If this, even what Mheshimiwa is saying, if that is what we are to go by, that these are trainers should have been housed properly by IEBC. They should have been given security. This is the IEBC that lost the head of its own 5 years ago in terms of ICT, the head of ICT. So the more reason now, you should have even proper surveillance around these people, because they can be kidnapped. Anything can happen. Okay. These elections are not being taken seriously at all by the person who should take it more seriously, and that is IEBC. Let's listen to what the team of DP William Ruto have said about the DCI and, of course, the actions and the statement that he released yesterday.
Mr. Kinoti, please save your time. Stop writing to us long letters. Leave matters of elections to IEBC. You have no business in IEBC. You have failed as DCI. We don't want you to fail our elections.
Now, where you have been displaying a lot of drama about arrests, possible prosecutions, nothing comes out of it. Wachana na watu wa IEBC, Bwana Kinoti.
And I want to tell the DCI gentlemen, when the victory is done and confirmed, we shall also, in the defense of democracy in this country, we shall also institute an inquiry to public officers, public servants who have been used to try and undermine democracy in this country.
All right, of course, you see a story that is on page 4 of the Standard talking about 2 election officials linked to Venezuelans at the center of DCI investigations. They are talking about, one of them is a commissioner of the IEBC, and Abdullahi Abdi Mohammed, the CEO of Seamless Limited, said to be the local partner of Smartmatic International Holdings, the company that is responsible for the deployment of election technology in this election. And there's a quote here: "We don't come from the same clan. Our interactions with him are purely work-related, especially on the KIMS project." That is someone who is quoted as having spoken to the Standard. And then they say that the contract is about 10,000 kits. The number of KIMS kits that Smartmatic has the contract to supply to IEBC for use in the August 9 general election. Of course, you recall that there are 46,000 polling stations, just slightly over 46,000. And out of that, there are certain KIMS kits that have been in the country since 2017 that will be reused in this election. And IEBC was getting, I believe, to the tune of 14,000 more KIMS kits for the same exercise. But Haman, when you listen to this, and at such a time, of course, in the window of transition, and you later listen to what they were telling the DP Ruto team was telling the president, how then do we survive this? All this suspicion, all these political wars, the war against DCI, and Azimio la Umoja partly saying that IEBC is not necessarily impartial. How do you survive it?
I think the beginning point, I was saying, I think you interrupted me at some point. The beginning point is for us to know this is our country. And I think the majority of us is the only country we have. And the corona taught us that sometimes you may have nowhere to go even if you had money. So people like Caleb must first know this is their country and just love it. Let reason prevail. Don't say things that I mean, you can't even convince a class 2 kid with what you are saying. What Kinamdavade and Ruto and Caleb are saying. Look here, these guys are carrying sensitive materials. Elections can send countries to dogs. Talk about, can destroy a country. Somebody sneaks in with material like this. They are not even taking the material to IEBC. They are taking the material to some private apartment, to some private individual. Look here, and they have no documentation whatsoever. It makes people begin to believe the rumors we are hearing that even these guys printing the papers in Athens, Greece, that they don't even have the capacity to print. That's what we are hearing. They have scattered the printing all over the world. You can't even believe such a rumors, and that would be dangerous. Because how can you be given a contract to print?
But do you believe what you're saying? Do you believe that rumor?
Who? What did I say, Sam? You always have to listen well. I said,
yes.
When things of this nature happen, they may make people believe rumors such as that. That's what I say.
You, because you're aware of that.
I have not said about me believing. I will take time to believe things. That's why I'm telling you, even as we discuss this topic, we are discussing basing on what we have been told by IEBC and what we have been told by DCI, and then we rope in the logic. When we consider the evidence, the information given to us by both parties, then we look at logic. We can't go the Caleb way. And as a country, you must know elections are important. This election can destroy this country. We've been there before. The Wakil is saying, we've been there before. We are behaving like 207 is 1807. 207 cannot be 1807. We know what happened. We want to avoid that. And I'm asking leaders. I feel very, very worried as a Kenyan when people like William Ruto and Musalia go to the public and speak because you are inciting the public. Stuff can happen in this country. I am asking leaders like Caleb, please, I have even asked people like Raila, when you have something of this nature, share it with IEBC privately. Because emotions are already high. You can make things. Put your country first, but also be reasonable. Don't defend that which you can't defend, Caleb.
We are defending what we can defend.
What can you defend? You can't defend such.
We have said we have faith in IEBC.
We all have faith in
the as Kenya Kwanza team has absolute faith in IEBC. The Azimio team is the one that has started bashing IEBC.
Just hold it there. Let's listen to what DP Ruto and team said about IEBC and, of course, what President Kenyatta should be doing at this time.
Not bother IEBC. They should not waste time fighting Chebukati. We want the elections and we want free, fair and credible elections. We don't want interference of the state.
You have 2 weeks as President of Kenya. You have a duty, a constitutional duty, to make sure that we have free, fair, democratic elections. Please, we want to ask you not to allow the security agencies, people who have sinister motives, to intimidate or blackmail the IEBC or to undermine the elections of 9th of August. You have a duty. We stood by you when you needed us to stand by you. We supported you when you needed men and women to support you. The whole of this crowd in this field stood by you at your hour of need. But as things are, whatever you have chosen, we respect your choice of what to do, and we wish you well as you go to retirement.
Okay, so
who sounds like a person in panic? Is it as me or this guy speak?
How does panic sound?
It sounds like that when you speak like that. you're in panic mode.
Caleb.
Speaking of losing, I think it's your side which has lost, Caleb.
Wow. Caleb, so when you listen to the deputy president, he's telling the president you have a duty, don't allow the security systems to 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that then suggest, because I thought the Constitution talks about the independence of institutions. I mean, what does that say for a person that wants to be president?
Sometimes you surprise me with your statements. You look like you have not been following what has been happening.
You're not listening to my question.
I have listened to your question. Sam, you know there is this creature called state capture. You know there are some institutions.
Just hold on.
You know that there are some institutions that are not working independently.
Which is fine.
DCI is one of them.
The question
there
I'm
are
asking
institutions
is,
which are working independently. IEBC is one of them. Our courts is one of them, and that is why we've had judgments that have been fair to whoever has gone to seek justice. Yeah. But we have a DCI and the police service that is highly compromised, and not at the bottom, at the top, at the office of the IG and the office of the head of DCI. They are not working impartially. That one is
taking instructions from who?
That is now taking instructions from state capture, and that is why you have seen the deputy president address the president, because President Uhuru Kenyatta has said you can try and coin it in whatever way, but in essence he has said, I'm not retiring, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to be around.
Caleb, you're not responding to my question, and sorry if
rephrase it.
If my questions sound very naive,
yes.
But I'm asking, this is a person who wants to be president of Kenya.
Yes.
And he's just told the president, you have a duty to ensure that state agencies do not interfere with the election. What
Correct.
specific duty does he have? And duty, not role. It's not about state capture or anything. Duty.
You see, Sam, how would DCI handle this issue? Is first, before you release any statement, get your facts right. Weigh the pros and the cons of any statement that you're going to release. But when you go out there and say these guys were carrying IEBC material, they came in with their expired passports, something that can be verified. Yes, they had IEBC materials. Yes. Are they connected with IEBC? Yes, they are.
Were
they with an IEBC?
Was there any evidence to that effect?
Yes, Chibukati's letter is enough evidence.
No, they didn't have it.
Chibukati was aware that they were coming, and that is why
the letter came.
In fact, the reason why DCI has come out strongly is because of the strong worded letter that Chibukati released, which showed that there was a serious interference with the workings of IEBC. And that is why Chibukati came out strongly to defend. I'm not here to speak on behalf of IEBC.
And so what is the specific duty of the president in that?
The specific duty of President Uhuru Kenyatta is to ensure that we have a smooth transition. Whether his project is losing or not, he should allow the people of Kenya to decide. What is happening now is the president wants to ensure that his project wins by whatever means.
You think the letter by DCI is
instructions? It's definitely after consultation.
No, instructions from the president?
Oh, yes, it's definite. It is definite.
How do you prove that?
You can prove it because the way DCI works, they work under instructions. They're not working independently. They're not working independently, Sam.
Well, I still don't know how to prove that, but...
No, Sam, no, yes. We can't let this go unchallenged. We say we are working with what we have. We have foreigners coming into the country with election material, undeclared, nobody knows them. They have no documentation to show who they are. At the end of the saga, up to now, it has not been shown that they work for IEBC. Chibukati has not told us. He has not shown any evidence. Mathematics doesn't have them on the list of consultants or workers. They are just people, private individuals from Venezuela passing through Panama, or is it Panama? We know what Panama or Panama is, coming, and the material, they are not even being received by IEBC. They are not being received by security. They are being asked, they said they were told to use a taxi to a private apartment, not to IEBC. That is enough to make us worried as Kenyans. Surely, Caleb, what more do you need? Why would you have to bring in Uhuru Kenyatta?
Okay.
Where is the project
Wakili,
here now?
Wakili, because here is an election, the referee is IEBC, there are candidates from both sides, or even, I mean, there are 4 presidential candidates, and I would need us to take a short break, but how should candidates be behaving at such a time, even when we have such allegations?
In fact, Sam, that's exactly what I want to speak to. In 2007, we did not go, to the country did not go to a sort of civil strife just because of the elections alone. It was because of words which were spoken, and by politicians, by the IEBC chief then, and that is what drove actually, the disharmony that was there. At this particular point, words coming from IEBC, from DCI, from the political actors is what is already driving this to exactly where we were. So I do agree that we must first measure our words in terms of what we are saying. We must be double or triple sure of facts before we bring them out to the public, especially on matters relating to elections. But more importantly, this speaks to what Article 81E talks about, and the core panelists speak to the same issue, because we are told that the principles of an election should be, and I'll go straight to, free from violence, intimidation, improper influence, or corruption. So there should not be any intimidation, improper influence, like Honorable Kositani is saying. Any aspect of improper influence, whether it's from the state, whether it's from any outsider, is actually a cause to actually say those elections did not meet this threshold. It then must also be conducted by an independent body. So IEBC must be independent. It should not then be directed by any other person, because today it will take instructions from left and right will complain. Then it must be administered in a transparent manner and administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, and accurate and accountable manner. Accurate, accountable manner means IEBC will still be accountable. Independence doesn't mean you are not accountable because of the cost of your lack of accountability. That means you cannot then, first of all, contract a company that already has issues in terms of how it conducted elections, or its role in elections in the Philippines, where those same issues arose, where its employees were actually accused of actually tampering with the results, and that matter is ongoing. But because of that, the more reason now they should have been more careful. So we have now employees of the same institution or the same company running amok with election items, yet there is that history that is still there, and you want to tell people that they will then trust the results that will come. Herman is very right on that, that you cannot then have an IEBC itself has failed the threshold that is already there. And 2 weeks to election, 14 days, this damage that has been done to its credibility, it's very hard to erode. Looking at the issues that were still there, the issues in terms of the transmission issues, the issues of the audit issues that were done, which we still do not have. All parties, UDA and Azimio, or Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, have issues which are unresolved by IEBC. 14 days to elections.
Okay. All right. And of course, because Kenyans may be wondering, what are these sensitive materials that everyone is speaking about? What I've seen, the stickers that I've seen, look, the KIMS kits, 46,000 of them would appear like a gadget like this, and give me your phone, and such a thing. So if you have such gadgets, you don't know which one belongs to which polling station. So the stickers would ideally give an indication of this is a polling station, a certain name, a certain code with a, what do you call it, this code, the barcode, that can be scanned for the sake of tracking. So it's labels that will identify certain KIMS kits in as far as the distribution process is concerned. So sensitive, probably, yes, because KIMS kits have to be taken to specific polling stations, and they have to be also brought back to the IEBC. So we still have more questions than answers, more political suspicion than the light that we need. But the conversation continues. We take a short break. When we return, we'll be speaking about the presidential debate that is set for tomorrow, and who is promising to attend and who is promising not to attend. Stay tuned.